guys, I'm Mateo.
Rishabh.
So this podcast is Aux Fiends. Basically, the point of this podcast is we just listen to one album and we kind of review it. We go track by track and we kind of do a whole overview. Sometimes we'll talk about a little music news. And so the way it will work after the first episode is one of us, and we'll alternate each episode. We'll offer up an album. Doesn't matter if it's new, if it's old, anything about it. Maybe the other person hates it or not, but we're just gonna fully listen to the album and then review it, right?
Yeah. And basically, like Mateo said, we'll kind of go track by track and then sort of dive deep into like what we liked about the track, what we didn't like, and just give it a review. And then I guess we'll talk about the album as a whole as well as like what we think about the whole thing as well.
Yeah. So actually, that's leading me to why we're doing Discovery by Daft Punk for our first episode, because
Yeah.
I know Rishabh and we love this album. So I thought it would be kind of a
Yeah.
cool middle ground to kind of start on, before we start arguing over our different music tastes and whatnot, you know. So before we
Yeah.
actually, yeah,
Well, I was just gonna say is that Discovery is probably one of the only albums that I think me and Mateo will like wholeheartedly agree on.
yeah, like
I
I
don't
know
think there's.
for me,
Yeah.
this is it's easily a top three album like in my entire life. Like I know that for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it obviously when we talk about the album as a whole, but like, I don't know, I don't know if I'm there at the point where I can say top three, but I think it's like an all-time personal favorite for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And so one really little quick kind of housekeeping just to get any listeners up to date. I want to talk about kind of really quick what kind of music we listen to or like kind of favorite genres. Like I know for me, I kind of like everything. Like usually when I listen to music, I'm not super an album
Oh
listener.
my
I don't
gosh.
totally all listen to
Oh my god.
artists or whatnot. But I kind of like there's a little bit of every single genre that I personally can like. Basically, what about you?
Well, okay. Well, I mean, I think you do like everything, but I feel like there's a little bit of qualification to that statement because I think based on what I understand of your taste, you like certain elements of everything, which I can respect for sure. Because like
Yeah.
I think I would also say that I like a lot of different genres, but for me, I know that we agree on this is that it's like not so much. And it's funny that we're doing kind of album reviews because it's I don't know, it's kind of counter to I think how we think
Yeah.
sort of because
Yeah.
like I mean I like really like particular tracks more than artists or even
Mm.
albums, but at the same time, I can listen to an album and appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I kind of like everything. I think I like pop more than most people, or I can enjoy it more than most people. I mean, I think that's about it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think that's fair. Just so people know kind of where we're coming from. All right. I think it's time to dive into Discovery. So
Let's discover,
yeah, let's discover Discovery.
discovery.
Yeah. So I have two things just to preface this album. It's Daft Punk's second album. It came out in 2001, early in the year, and so I think that leads us to the first track. One more time.
One more time, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I was gonna mention too about the album is that like I don't know if you know this, Mateo, but like a lot of the tracks were actually samples. Like if you go on YouTube or wherever or look this up, like I think almost every track has some sort of like sampling or like inspiration from a previous song. Just like a fun
Oh
fact too.
yeah, I mean I feel like that's just Daft Punk as a whole. They just sample a
Yeah,
bunch of
for
stuff,
sure.
and I know for me, I love when artists sample other songs and stuff like that, and then I love like deep diving into the song and like trying to find
Yeah,
like the sample and listen to the song unedited, like of the sample of it and everything like
yeah,
that. And
yeah,
so you definitely see this
yeah.
all throughout Discovery. Yeah.
Definitely, and I think like the samples in this album too are sort of more subtle too. So it's not like I obviously there's some songs that'll take like full chunks of things, and I think there's here it's like more mixed. So I mean it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's if you're ready, let's talk about one more time.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean
I just wanted to make sure too, because I know I did it for Discovery. A part of this podcast too is we pick a top song of ours and then a least
oh
favorite
yeah,
of ours, you know. And
yeah,
and we'll
I
say
did
it when
that.
we get to the song,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
But for
sure.
now, let's keep on going with one more time. Unless this is your favorite, I don't know, or least favorite, who knows?
Maybe I'll let you know
Yeah.
in a minute here, but yeah, I mean, this is definitely, well, first of all, it's the opening song, and like, I mean, obviously, like an opening song doesn't have to necessarily like set the precedent for the entire album or whatever, but like, I think if you listen to One More Time, you automatically know that you're listening to Discover. It's just like a landmark kind of
Yeah.
identifying song for it. And then, I mean, it's a great song, and I think one of the reasons is because like I think when you think about like EDM, like just electronic dance music in general, Daft Punk was really big for that. But I think this song is different because it's not just like I mean, it's EDM is beyond like the bleeps and bloops, you know.
Yeah.
This is more a traditional like party pop song, I would say, that has some of like the Daft Punk flair to it, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously the beat in the background is amazing, and I think this is like just a very well mixed song as well. And that kind of goes for the entire album, I think, is like it's the sound mixing is just amazing, like really pristine. The vocals have like a really crisp digital edge to them. I think that's, one of the biggest indicators of a Daft Punk song. And yeah, it's a very like a party pop song done with sort of an EDM edge.
Yeah.
And then it has like that very, I know that you might be able to identify what I'm talking about, like that sort of slow part, like the middle, very slow part.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that it's sort of an interesting vibe that it brings, but at the same time, it's like a weird counter to a party song. Like it sort of slows down the tempo of it. But I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. It's basically fine, and I kind of like how it picks up from that slow like portion as well. But yeah, I think this is a fantastic song actually, and I think it's again one of the identifying songs. And I thought about it for a while, and this is my favorite song from the album.
Oh, really?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean,
It makes
there's
sense. It makes sense.
yeah,
I like underlined the song when I was listening to it. I'm like, this is definitely a contender. You know,
yeah, yeah,
like
and I
like to
think
me, what you were saying, like about One More Time and how you hear everything about Daft Punk, and obviously it's the opening song. Like to me, I literally wrote down in my notes like this is a classic. To me, this is quintessential Daft
yeah,
Punk.
I wrote that too. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is Daft Punk. I feel like if you were to make a this is Daft, the Spotify this is artist playlist that they
Yeah.
have, like this would probably be number one for me, just because this is like it's not only like not only does it have like the sort of like trademark style that they're known for, but it's also inventive in some ways and kind of sort of even different from their style in some ways.
Yeah.
Just because it's very pop influenced, and yeah, it's an amazing song. It's a classic song, and it's not Discovery without One More Time. That's the only way I can really put it.
I know. You can say that one more time.
It's not really Discovery without One More Time.
Yeah. 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 Bad pun. Bad pun. But
it's
I mean, you basically said
it's
everything
really
I
good.
wanted to say
Yeah,
about it. Like the only thing else is I feel. I mean, it's literally in the name of One More Time. I
yeah,
feel like if I ever want a second wind, like I literally will get it after
yeah.
listening to this song. Like whatever the moment, I just feel like it
Oh
just
yeah.
gets you kind of amped up
Yes. Yeah.
on either this nostalgia of the song or just like of whatever you're doing previously, and you just like are ready to go again. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very just like very upbeat, very kind of fast paced, yeah, like amped up song. And I guess like the only issue, like quote unquote issue, I guess, is like that like little middle portion, which isn't really even an issue. I think it works well within the song, but like I feel like given like if you were like having like a party setting or had this song on, that slowdown might be kind of like just like kind of kills the vibe in a way. But
Yeah.
like if you sit down and listen to it, yeah, I mean it's a little bit long that portion, but it's still great. I mean I love the vocals in that part too. So I think it's pretty much one of my all time favorite songs, I guess, because it's one of those ones I never really get tired of listening to. So yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. This is a top contender for me, as though it's not my favorite. But I think that kind of wraps up for One More Time. Unless you have anything else to say.
No, I mean, if you haven't listened to One More Time, be sure, like, if you don't listen for me at least, if you don't listen to any of the rest of Discovery, I think One More Time is definitely the one. I think One More Time, to be honest, is what got me into Daft Punk. So it's like, I think I mean, obviously there's a lot of great songs, but it wasn't that hard for me to pick this as my favorite one.
Yeah, easily. And I
Yeah,
think the great transition, multiple ways, to the next song, Aerodynamic, is at
yeah,
least for me. I actually listened to this whole album on vinyl, and maybe it was just the vinyl, but to me, I loved the transition from One More Time too aerodynamic. I felt like that was almost seamless. It just seemed kind of perfect, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably not my favorite song-to-song transition ever, but like, yeah, it's good. And yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
Aerodynamic's a cool song. I mean, once you hear the bells, like the
yeah.
opening.
This is like I'm ready for more. You know, I'm like deep
Exactly.
diving into Discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
and
I think the only other song with bells that like start the song that like it's that song is like "For Whom the Bell Tolls" by Metallica. It's just like when you hear those bells. Similarly with Aerodynamic, when you hear those like beginning bells, it's like you're just ready to listen to that song.
yeah, yeah. And so
But
and so with Aerodynamic, I mean I'm pretty sure it's what all instrumental, so there's no lyrics in there.
right, of
Um, I know me, I love the riff, just all the entire guitar, just like
course, yeah,
through the song, like
yeah,
it feels, it literally feels like I'm being aerodynamic, you know. I'm like
yes, I
drifting
know.
through in the wind or whatever, and just like with it, it's just like
Literally, yeah. Like in my notes, I wrote in the name dynamic. Like it's just like the
yeah,
mixing great, um, the amazing guitar riff. I mean, it's such an aggressive guitar riff, but it's great. It's phenomenal. It's
yeah.
just like it just comes in hard in the song, and it just gives it a whole new layer, a whole new dimension to it. Yeah, it's a fantastic song again. I mean, I don't even know for like deep diving discovery if we're just saying everything's great, but like the
I
way the
don't,
song
you know,
begins too. The way the song begins, like with all those sounds, like I just said, like it's like a
yeah,
flurry of sounds, and it's like a firework quality to it. It's just like blasts on.
yeah.
It's a very loud song. I mean, it's great, and there's like sort of a soft slowdown at the end too, so it covers like all the dimensions you'd want in a Daft Punk song for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and actually, going back to the transition, I actually really like often listen to it in the two parts with starting off with one more time and then just like ending it in aerodynamic, just kind of blending together.
Oh
I know
yeah,
they're different songs, but I just kind of like the way you get the feeling with the second wind with one more
yeah,
time, and then you kind of just like literally are dynamic, like you said, with aerodynamic, you
yeah,
know, like all
yeah.
around.
And if I'm not wrong, I think Alive, the 2007 Alive, I think they mixed both of those in particular. I think they
Yeah, I think you're
did
right.
One More Time and Aerodynamic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I'd have to fact check that, but I think that's what they mixed. And it's a great mix to listen to. I mean, those two songs just go together really, really well.
Yeah, yeah. These just feel like Daft Punk. It feels at home for Daft Punk.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. I think that brings us to our third track, Digital Love.
Yeah.
Um.
You want to start off on this one?
Yeah, sure. I don't have a super ton of notes. I do like the song definitely, but I'd say because to me I kind of put it into like two and a half kind of parts where it's it starts out and then there's kind of like I don't know the bridge in the middle, but then it kind of
Mhm.
comes back. And I just know I literally wrote down that I love the second part when it kind of goes super upbeat and you kind of just
Yeah.
can jam into it, you know?
I'm assuming you're feeling the part where it's after the "Why don't we play the game" lyric.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that part is great for sure.
What about you? What do you feel about Digital Love?
I love this song. I think it's almost was my number one because I mean, One More Time is just definitely the more classic song, and I think it's the one I will never ever get tired of. But Digital Love is just another fantastic, just very Daft Punk type song. I think the cool thing about this one is like it's a mix of like a lot of different genres. Really, if you think about it, there's pop, there's electronic, there's rock even. The just like that pop tune that it has, the vocals are super harmonious. It's like a sort of smooth quality to it. Um, also, this one also has an amazing guitar riff, and then around like the 2:15 mark at the end, it kind of also leads to that guitar riff. That part is amazing. I don't know. I just have 2:15 written down here. So let's go back to 2:15 if I'm not being
Yeah.
able to describe this well. But yeah, it's like this cheery, fun, sort of cheesy pop tune, but also like elevated with the Daft Punk kind of flair. And yeah, it's probably like my honestly second favorite song on the album. It's very catchy, but also really well made too, and just well produced. So
Yeah.
I love this song.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Cool.
All right. Brings it us to the track four, right?
I think we're there. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a lot to say about this one. So it's harder, better,
Yeah.
faster, stronger. I don't know if you want to go first or I can go. I got a good amount to say about it. Like,
Um, I mean, I think I'll go first because I
okay,
think maybe a little less to say, but it's obviously an extreme classic. I think this is even more recognizable than One More Time, maybe. I don't know.
yeah,
I think Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, and One More Time are probably the two most recognizable Daft Punk songs ever. What I like about this song is just like the voices, the robot voices, for lack of a better term, like the mechanic, like sampling quality of the voices too. So it kind of sounds like someone took robots and made music out of it, which I think is interesting.
yeah,
Also, just like the way the text setting is done, where it's like it has sort of this lurchy quality to it, the entire song. And then the lyrics are sort of like these robots trying to sing through the music. I mean, that's kind of me like trying to find something interesting about Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, having heard it like a million times. And I
yeah.
think those two things really come out really strongly. But I mean, it's maybe slightly less good than I remember sometimes, but it's still definitely like a banger of a song. It's just,
Yeah, yeah,
uh, yeah, I mean, it's again like very classic EDM, Daft Punk, just, and in its time, I would imagine it was rather experimental too, because you're really only using these robotic voices. There's a lot of repetition, but you're also kind of playing around with the music too. And I think Discovery in general does a lot of playing around with the music. Maybe this is my number three in the album, just because the latter half of the album is not my favorite part of the album.
okay.
So I think this is, yeah. I mean, I love this song. It's fantastically made. It's amazingly produced, and it's again a classic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, so now I guess I can go. Um, to me, this is another classic Daft Punk song. I know for me, this
Mm-hmm.
was definitely my first introduction to Daft Punk. I'd seen, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there was this YouTube video called Daft Hands where basically this guy just wrote all the harder, better, faster, stronger lyrics like on his hands, and they would like go with the beat and like show each finger like representing a
Yeah.
word. Like I just know when I first saw that, I was like entranced with the song because I feel like I never really had heard something like this before, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think for a lot
Unique
of
for
other
sure. Yeah.
people, this is actually the same song one way or another. Because I'll get into that. That like they first heard Daft Punk because
Yeah.
I gotta say I'm almost certain this is other than maybe Get Lucky, like off of Random Access Memories, I think this is maybe
Right.
Daft Punk's most popular song. I mean, Kanye West sampled it, was stronger. Like,
Of course.
I just gotta say, like, I feel like some people just know this one way or another. Now, I will say, after a re-listen, I used to love this song when I was younger. It's not
Yeah.
my favorite. Still
Yeah.
holds up though. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I'd
still
agree
good.
with that. Yeah, yeah, it's still good. I feel like it sort of has deteriorated over time. I mean, Kanye did a really good job with the song.
Yeah,
I think that's where a lot of people also get introduced to it, and it is sort of like that gateway Daft Punk song. Like people kind of discover Daft Punk through this song.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it still holds up. Maybe not as good as it perhaps was when you're maybe younger or
Yeah, like
whatever. But yeah,
I feel like the only reason we've been saying this too is like if this is the only Daft Punk song, I'm all in. But if I'm listening to other kind of stuff,
yeah,
I'm kind of getting a whole other vibe. Because I even wrote it down. Like I listened to this the whole album all the way through with no breaks. That like
yeah,
I felt this was the first song that I felt had the lack of transition, like from song to song. Like there was one more time to Aerodynamic, even a little bit to like Digital Love, but then after that, that's where I felt it
mm,
kind of like stopped. You know what I mean? And with the next song with Kristen Dolls, I'll actually get into it more, where I feel like that's actually a good marker to kind of chunk up the album as a whole.
yeah. I
Yeah,
agree with 100%. Yeah.
yeah. All right, do you have anything to say about this one?
I'm pretty good for Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. And again, this is one of those, again, sort of classic songs. If you have never heard of Daft Punk for some reason, you should definitely, either listen to this one or listen to One More Time. I think those two are like the classic ones, for sure.
Yeah. All right, so that brings us to track 5 with Crescent Dolls. And so going back to what I said, I felt like this was a lack of transition from the previous song.
Yeah.
Ultimate, you can see it here. Like, I love the funk in this song, but I can
Yeah.
absolutely understand if this is not for everyone. I almost feel like this, I had not the biggest disconnect, but it just felt like this was the biggest change kind of in Discovery's musical story, if you guys get what I mean. Where I just kind of felt it transformed. I could listen to the first 4 songs just like that, and I could get a story. But not saying it doesn't work with it. It just changed for me. It just kind of
Yeah.
it's a turning point, you know.
Yeah.
It's a
And
different part.
I think this is as good time as ever to, I mean, talk about the film that came with the entire album, which I mean, for me, that was like
Yeah.
definitely personally one of the major reasons I love Discovery 2 is because I've seen the movie Interstellar 5555, which is sort of like this, you could say it's a compilation really of music video clips, but also it does form this bigger story too, that kind of came with the album. And obviously like, since it's sort of a narrative, there's some parts that transition well and then some parts that perhaps don't, even though the movie came later. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger and Crescent Dolls anyway are very different songs. With Crescent Dolls, I think what you're saying about like why certain people might not like it is because it's probably easily one of the most repetitive songs on the album. And if you're not super into like that sort of incremental type of music, this might not be the one for you. That said, I think this song has like an explosion of sound, great sampling, and just like a really good mix. And so that repetition never feels like super elongated. Plus the fact that it's not a super long song either. I mean, I don't know. What did you think about like just the repetition of it?
I That's why I said I can understand if it's not for everyone. I actually
Yeah.
really, you'll see this later. I love repetition in songs, and just because I
Yeah.
just kind of like playing it back and back. It doesn't get too out there, you know.
Mhm.
Don't. I mean, of course, I love the complexity of different songs, but I do enjoy a nice, just kind of repetitive song. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, electronic music, especially Daft Punk's music, is known for repetition. That said, I don't think like repetition in all of their songs has worked 100% of all the time, but Crescent Dolls is definitely one of the ones where it works really well. Obviously, around the world, right? I mean, that is literally just 3 words used over and over again in a Daft Punk song, and that's another great example of a super long song with practically no lyrical variety that still is great, even though it's very repetitive. And I think Crescent Dolls too, despite being repetitive, sounds great because the mix is so good. That's
Yeah.
my take on that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think that's it for that one.
Transition into track 6, Night
Track
Vision.
6.
Yeah. So let me say mine first. Where
Sure.
I will say this. I was extremely tempted to put this as my least favorite. I didn't though, just because I felt that was maybe too easy to put. Just because I think this is maybe the shortest song, if you can
Mm-hmm.
call it that, on the album. To me, this really
Yeah.
just acted as an interlude. I mean, what? This is track
That's what
6.
I
There's
wrote down. I literally my first note is interlude slash interval. It's a
yeah,
soundscape. I mean, it's fine. It's a break in the album.
it's a break. Yeah.
It's atmospheric sound. It's not terrible. I mean, I don't know if I got this is subconsciously from a comment I saw on YouTube or something I came up by myself, so I'm not sure. But I also wrote down it kind of sounds like cars passing by at night in the rain or something. Maybe that has something to do with
Oh
the
yeah.
film's imagery. But yeah, I mean, I almost also put it down as the worst song, but there's one song I hate even more,
Whoa,
which we'll get into
hate. Okay,
later.
because I can say I don't hate
Hate,
any
yes.
on this
Well,
album.
there's one. Well, I don't want to say hate. I'll say I hate more
Don't
than
say it
this.
yet, but yeah.
Okay. Dislike. How's that?
Okay.
But
This isn't
yeah,
my least favorite though. This is not my least
no,
favorite.
it's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a fully formed track. It sounds more like a demo almost.
Yeah.
It's an atmospheric soundscape interlude.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
It's an
think
interval.
I think it's actually pretty interesting whether you got it from the YouTube comment or not that you said it was like the late night driving cars. Like
Yeah.
to me, what came to my mind was it was like late night. I almost felt like just like an ocean breeze, just like laying down, like looking at
Oh
the
yeah.
stars at night, like on the beach. Just like that's what
Mhm.
I felt like it was, and kind of to me to kind of wrap this up for Night Vision, I felt like it was almost like a perfect Daft Punk lullaby. You know,
Yeah.
just something
I think
to
I also kind
soothe
of
you
thought
out.
about that because it's very atmospheric again, just very low key, melancholic almost. And yeah, you know, I think if they elongated the song and then had lyrics in it, like it would sound really good. But as it
Yeah.
is, it's a fine interlude. I mean, it's the middle portion of the album, and that's about it.
Yeah. And I know we've been saying, or at least I've keep been saying, like with Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, there was a lack of transition, and then like Crescent Dolls, I finally felt like it was an upturn and like kind of different with the funk, and like that really just changed the part. This, I can definitely say after Night Vision, like halved it in half. You know what I mean? Because it is the interlude. You know, it
Yeah.
definitely just
Yeah.
like put all the rest. It's been forever since I've seen Interstellar 55555, however many fives there are. You know,
Yeah.
I've
I
seen
think
it once for a long time, so I'm not too sure how much they like put that in with the movie, but
it was there. It was there. I think that's where I kind of got the car thing. I'm not sure, but I think they're
okay,
driving during that song playing. But
okay, that
yeah,
makes
again,
sense.
it's just a very small atmospheric thing, and there's not much to it. I think it's fine production, and that's about it.
Yeah, okay. I think that leads us into track 7,
An
and
interesting one.
all I got is 4 words to say. Something's in the air. Am I right,
Oh my
Rishabh?
gosh. How long it took me, the years I spent trying to find out what those lyrics said.
I know. I actually recall. I think it had been a couple, 1 or 2 years back. We had actually argued. I don't remember
We
what you were
did, we
thinking it
did.
said,
I
like,
remember this.
but
I
what it
remember what I
said.
thought it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember. I thought it was. I think I said gold is in the air.
yeah. I'm like, I don't know if
Gold
that
is in
really
the air.
makes sense, but
Yeah. I always thought it's gold's in the air because it sounds like gold is in the air, right? Like I don't
I
know.
don't
I
know.
realize now it's something's in the air, but it
Yeah,
always sounded like gold is in the air to me. But
yeah. Now, I gotta say, dude, I love this song.
same here. It's great. It's very underrated. So
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah, this is I feel extremely underrated, especially like the last half of this entire album. I feel like is kind of underrated, and like
Well,
I
I don't
gotta
know
be
about
honest with
that.
you, dude.
I will agree with you on superheroes.
Okay, we'll talk about it, dude.
Okay.
For me, this is the best song. I'm not saying overall maybe musically it's the best, but this is my favorite song off of Discovery.
Honestly, that's fair. I like this song, and I
I
won't
love
judge you for that
superheroes.
because it's a good song. Yeah, it's great. I mean, go ahead and talk about it more if you want, because
Yeah,
I mean, for me at least, or well, go ahead first.
yeah. Like to me, I feel like it's crazy how they do so much with so little. If you get what I mean? Because I mean, what? It's
Yeah,
just those
yeah,
4 words basically, and like
yep.
to me, there's literally like never any vocal change with the lyrics of something's in the air. Like
I don't think so. No.
I don't know
Yeah.
how they had like I love when people do an artist have really harsh kind of constraints, and I'm not sure if they like wanted to have those constraints or if they thought
Sure. Yeah.
about it just to keep those like same lyrics throughout the song. But I love when they do so much with constraints on them. Like to me, this song it's an instrumental without being instrumental. You
Yeah.
know what I
Pretty
mean?
much.
Just because
Hmm.
they just use the lyrics in such a clever way throughout this entire song, and they just like it's almost like something's in the air is an instrument, and they're playing and they're using other instruments to either harmonize with it or riff off of it and whatnot. Like
Yeah.
that's just kind of
Yeah.
why I love the song. And I mean I love the repetitive nature of songs a lot of the time, especially with Daft Punk. And I think Superheroes
Hmm.
just wraps that all for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the sample, the something's in the air, like you said, instrumental. I'll take it even one step further and say it's sort of like a bass line, where like you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
all this other sort of very inventive instrumentation kind of going around it. And that's sort of like a constant bass line to it, where it's kind of all happening around that vocal. I guess you could say like, yeah, just those vocals, and then you have all this instrumentation around it. This is a great example of how Daft Punk is great at repetition. I mean, with just that one line, you get like just laser sounds around it. One of my favorite parts of the song, where you kind of literally hear laser sounds around it.
Yeah.
It's very futuristic. It sounds Daft Punk, but it's also very inventive. I almost considered this as a number one at some point. You know, there's so much
Okay.
competition with this album, but Superheroes is great. I mean, it's another one I would put in a very must listen Daft Punk playlist.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic song again. Not to
Absolutely.
overuse that word, but yeah, super underrated for sure. Listen to this one.
Yeah. Totally agree. All right. Brings us to track 8. High Life.
High
Um,
Life.
I don't know how you feel about this one. It was. I gotta say this. I gotta preface this. This was super, super hard for me to say, but for me, I
Yeah.
feel like this might have been the worst song on the album. I don't know. I really like it.
Oh,
I mean, I love Daft Punk or
yeah,
Discovery and like all their songs. I don't hate any song. It was like between this and one later song. I
yeah.
just like,
I, I'm interested in hearing what that one later song is because I
yeah.
can't imagine. There's one track on here, everyone, that I just can't. It's so terrible compared to
Oh my
everything else
gosh. Okay,
around it.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. This is High Life
We'll
time.
get
High
into
Life.
it. But
Okay, so
High Life is a good song to me.
yeah.
I mean, I like it. It's not great. It's not the best. It's sort of like Crescent Dolls. I sometimes
Oh,
get them mixed up, actually.
I wrote that. That was the first thing I wrote down too. I got Chrysandall vibes. Right? It brings
Yeah,
back like a little bit of the funk or whatever. Like
yeah.
the way
It's like a
I
yeah, it's
the
like
way
a Vogue sound, right? Like
yeah
a very like a fashion walkway. I mean, sort of
yeah
that house, like deep house sort of music,
yeah
which comes in a later song as well.
yeah.
But yeah, it's fine. I think they went for a very specific vibe, and they capture it pretty well. They play with the music a little bit. It has some of that incremental quality again. It's good. I like it. I mean,
Okay,
I actually like the song. It's not bad. I'm sort of struggling to get my feelings across about it, but
fine.
it's good. It's about the same as Crescent Dolls for me. I'll put it that way.
Okay. No, that's totally fair. Like to me, I don't hate it. I don't even know if I dislike it. To me, this is the most neutral song for me.
Yeah.
You know, like how what I was talking about with One More Time, how I get a second wind, and that, but it all kind of wraps up in One More Time, where I kind of get that wind again back in One More Time. I felt like with High Life, especially towards the bridge, I kind of felt like I was amping up for another song, but we kind of never got it until we got to the literal next song after it. You know, it felt more like I was in like a lobby of like a gaming like casino or something, and I was like ready to take down like the final boss or like evil owner. You know what I mean? But that's all it kind of was. It was just the lobby with this song. That's what I felt like. You know.
Okay, there's another song that gives way more like serious lobby vibes, but I think this is not the one. I think this one, yeah, I can understand what you're saying, like the
Oh,
casino vibe, because
I don't know if I said this.
it's sort of
Lobby of an old like an old video game, like an actual
yeah,
video game kind of lobby casino vibes. That's what I felt. Like it was just amping up for something better and more to come, but it just
hmm
didn't happen. I felt like with this song.
okay. I mean, yeah, I think I mean I like it. I think more than you, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think again it sort of captures that Vogue sound, which I think you'll either like it or not. It's again similar to Crescent Dolls for me. I mean, I think it went for a very specific tonality, and it succeeds in doing that. And I like this one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So track 9, Something About Us. What do you got
hmm
to say about it?
I like this one. I think it's another underrated one. Not maybe not super underrated, but I overall like it. It's again sort of very much a departure for Daft Punk. It has sort of this almost jazzy, slow, sort of sublime. I want to say almost contemplative vibe to it. There's a lot of good electric guitar here, good vocals, and that sort of muffled guitar sound at the end I really like. Again, very sort of slow. Yeah, I want to say jazzy song. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
this
It
is
kind of
probably the
slows
most
down.
jazz influence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I feel like it
What do you
slows
think
down. Like
about it?
almost like changes the sound down. To me, I didn't write a ton for this song. I do like it definitely, but
Mm-hmm.
I felt it was. I felt this one did right of what High Life did wrong. I felt this one this
Ouch.
felt almost preemptive of an upturn. You know what I mean? And we won't really actually see that until
Okay.
like a couple of tracks from now. But overall, it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's for sure better than High Life. I defend High Life more than you, but
Yeah.
it's better than High Life as a track. It's just the production's different. I think it sounds different from most of the other tracks. It's a good slow down, but it also has great vocals. It has, I think, yeah, I mean, I like this one. I can't quite remember the mix quality of it, but yeah, the vocals is something I wrote down for sure in my notes, and it has sort of that jazzy quality to it. I think Daft Punk. I wish they actually brought in more, whatever other albums, but
Yeah.
it sort of differentiates itself. Yeah.
Okay. So track 10, Voyager. Um, I like it.
Hold on.
I like it.
Yeah.
To me, this is more of the kind of quintessential long drive late at night. You know what I mean? I mean, it's in the title name of the song. It feels like
Yep.
I'm like going on a trip. You know, uh,
Yeah.
for me, some of my favorite genres are like a vaporwave, the future funk, lo-fi, like all those videos on like YouTube and stuff. And to me, it was
Mhm.
just kind of reminiscent of those types of videos I'd see, like just like with the anime gif of just like a long car drive, or whatever, with the flashing lights, just like going on a
Yep.
trip. You know, that's what I felt.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, I think somebody in the comments had written like something about driving here as well, and I was like automatically when I saw that comment, I was like, yeah, kind of deep house vibes here too. And I know I said that for an earlier song too, but this sort of also has very strong deep house vibes, and also the kind of vibes that you're saying too, Mateo, where it's again sort of that trance drive music.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it also has that synth pop too, and actually there's a couple of things in the song that I think um, really also differentiate it. It sort of, to me, in some places sounds almost like an action movie score. It has sort of a little bit of attention to it, I think, than sort of maybe some of the chill songs you're talking about. It for sure has like that trance thing to it, but also a little bit more tension, which is the part that I like. So I wouldn't really say it's like chill lo-fi, but it's has that trance pop
yeah. No,
thing to it.
I don't
There's
think
also
it
sort of this
is.
build thing to it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Like I just said those genres. Like I don't actually think it is like the
Yeah.
lo-fi whatever.
I know
It
what you're
just gave
talking
me the
about.
same feelings that I
Yeah. Okay,
sometimes get when I listen to those types of songs. Like
sure,
you said it perfect. I feel like I'm in a trance with the song. It's just like I'm late night driving. My eyes are glazed over. I'm hitting a steady 65, you know, while
yeah.
driving, and I'm just like cruising along, like close but not close enough to my
Yeah,
destination where I'm like, okay, let me just zone out for a little
yeah.
longer, and I'll be there.
It's definitely a good song for me. I mean, it holds up pretty well amongst the other songs, despite having that more of that trance vibe, and it never feels necessarily like it doesn't fit in the album. So I really like this one too.
Okay, cool. Flip over my notes. All right, track 11, Veritas Quo. What do you feel about this
I
song?
hate
Because
this.
I got
I
a
hate
good
it.
amount.
This is the one. This is the one. I'm just gonna say it.
No, are you kidding me?
I can't. Are you kidding me? This is terrible. Okay,
I
let me
love
explain.
this song. I love it.
Look,
You need to explain. You need to explain because I'm gonna need to do some
I,
cleaning
I
up
will.
after
I
you
will.
destroy
I
it.
will. Because look, let's talk about Virtus Quo, okay? I never liked it Intercell 555 either. And I think that's one of the first times that I really, really listened to it the whole time through. And of course, in preparation for the podcast today. So I'll say it's somewhat unique. I will say it's somewhat different for Daft Punk. Again, a lot of these songs are sort of different, but also kind of within the vibe. And I think that's kind of why it's discovery, right? And they kind of experiment a little bit here. Veritas Quo is boring. It's a boring song to listen to.
Whoa.
I literally wrote down melancholic medieval music because that's what it sounds like to me. I could not really care less about this song. It's fine. I can listen to it because it's a Daft Punk song, and so there is some level of standard there, and it's not it's not something I would just like completely like if it were on I'd have to turn off or whatever. But yeah, I don't like the song. It's very repetitive and actually feels repetitive. Like that one medieval tune that I'm talking about. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it because I don't have like the super technical language
I
for
don't know
it.
if
But
I'd
it's
describe
just
it a medieval tune, but yeah.
okay. Well, the main tune. I'll say
Yeah,
it that.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
sort of the main tune, the whole main tune of the track. There's really no surrounding instrumentation to this song. It's very repetitive. And like for Daft Punk, obviously, like I said earlier, like they're really good at getting repetition right, but this is not one of those cases. This is actually a
Oh
very
my god.
boring song to me. I'm very
Wow.
curious to think why I think this is good because
This is a top song for me, dude. I don't know. I don't know if it's top two or maybe top three, but like this is top half definitely. Like
that's insane.
I got a bunch to say about the song. I mean, okay. Start off. The first things I wrote for Veritas Quo was in quotes I actually put story. To me,
No, come
this is
on.
this is a story song. It's a journey without the journey. To me, overall, this is just it tells a story of like indecisiveness. It's a story of struggle. I almost felt like
What?
when listening to the song. I'm serious. Maybe you're listening to the wrong song, because like
I don't think. I mean,
To me, this is a song of just
I'm
like,
actually laughing at the way you're describing it because I would definitely not describe it that way. I would describe it
whoa,
as the opposite of that. This is why we're on
no.
Aux Fiends, guys.
Yeah, this is Aux Fiends. This is why we argue.
This is pretty much what you're gonna get in the next few episodes because I'm gonna be picking albums that I know for sure you hate. But
Okay, well, you better buckle up because I'll be doing the same.
yeah,
Like,
literally,
I don't.
okay,
I'm not even done talking about Veritas Quo. Like,
I'm
with it,
already
with,
pissed
with the
because this song
story.
is just it's boring. It doesn't have a story to
No
it. There's no
way.
story.
That's all the song is a story. You're
There's no
so wrong.
progression.
No way. It's a story of
Not
struggle. Like, there's so much
a-
just to deep dive in this song, where,
What?
well, because it's Latin. Veritas Quo means like, and just like plain English terms, it means like where are you going? But like the greater overall, I had to look this up by the way. Like I use like the Daft Punk wiki for this, but like the greater meaning is like a biblical term or something. It means like to what purpose, and I absolutely felt that with the song. It's just like it goes back to like the indecisiveness someone's feeling. It just felt a story of a personal struggle. It's like, what is my purpose? That's what I felt like. I was like I was flying the wall listening to someone internal struggle. I mean, even the name Veritas Quo is a pun too. It's because it sounds like very disco if you say it really quick. There's just
Yeah.
so much I love about this song. I can't believe this is your least favorite. No way.
Well, look, I'm like playing it back in my head right now. Just like, but like I can see what you're saying. It
Yeah.
has sort of a good tension to it, so I understand what you're saying in terms of like that, like that quality of like pining or like contemplation that you're referring to or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just so repetitive, and it's a fairly long song too. I want to say it's like 5 minutes, like 36 seconds, because I felt every second, and that's why I kind of remember that. It's way too long. It's way too repetitive without any really good background instrumentation to kind of fill up the space behind it. And it's just one main melody, and it's sort of like very sharp and like, um, in a way, I want to say not memorable, but like it's one particular tune that just repeats over and over. It's not like something like Superheroes, right, where you have
Yeah.
this very strong progression that's acting as a bass line. There's lots of cool, interesting instrumentation happening, but it's also not like contemplative in the way that like Something About Us or Voyager perhaps were. Like it doesn't have that trance vibe. It doesn't have that jazzy quality. It doesn't have great sampling. It has nothing to offer, and it's just it's not a good
I just
track.
disagree with you. I mean, I can get how someone this isn't their favorite, but like it's
It's the worst.
Veritas Quo, dude.
I'm
I like
curious.
it. I like it.
Well, I know you were mentioning there was one other track that you thought was sort of bad, so I'm curious to see out of the last few which one that is,
Yeah.
because I totally thought you would agree with me with this one.
No
I don't.
way. No way.
This one, I literally, I almost went with, of course, Night Vision, but
Yeah.
yeah,
To me,
this
that was
one.
too cheap to pick that one. That was too cheap to pick that one. It didn't feel like it was the
Yeah,
full song for
I
that
wouldn't even say
reason.
it's more like it's an interlude, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this song is just so longer and so much more boring.
Okay. I did
If you,
actually. I looked it up. It is the second longest song. I mean, I guess not to spoil your fast forwarding to the last song, but I guess you could
yeah,
maybe say this is the longest song. It clocks in at 5 minutes and 44 seconds, just beating barely one more time. That's like 5 minutes 20 seconds.
yep,
But
it's a yawn. So,
I 100% disagree with you. But
all right,
I
well,
need
that's
to change to the next
all,
song
guys.
because I cannot hear all this blasphemy
Slander
against
against
Veritas
Francisco.
Quo. No way. All right,
Oh my god.
coming in the last three tracks. Here's track 12, Short Circuit. Um,
Yeah.
this is the song that I was fighting over with High Life that I
Okay.
didn't love. I don't dislike it. Again, I love everything on Discovery, but this I was struggling between this song and High Life, which one
Mhm.
I didn't like more,
Mhm.
basically, because these are definitely the two bottom songs of the album for me. To me, it just felt like it was like a robot fight. I was amping up for that. You know what I mean? It,
Yeah.
yeah, and again, to go with the song kind of allegory, to me, this is the story of in the robot fight. This is the story of the robot that ends up losing the fight, and then as a result, kind of has his batteries drained. Like, especially you can hear that right towards the end of the song of Short Circuit. It kind of just like fades out and kind of just whimpers away.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. I literally forgot about this song. So like I came
that's fair.
to this track and then I played it and it was a super upbeat kind of beginning. If you remember the beginning, it's
Yeah.
very upbeat. And then it just progressed and got stranger and got a little bit weird and then it grows into this distortion sort of noise. And yeah, it's one of the more very, very kind of outlandish tracks for Discovery. It's sort of experimental and it's definitely not one you're gonna like listen to over and over again because it has sort of a weirdness to it that I think you appreciate maybe once or twice, but it's sort of not definitely not like pop, trance, rock,
Yeah.
or anything like the other genres that we've seen so far. I find your interesting like story interpretation behind it interesting because see the way I see it is that it's literally a short circuit of like one robot you could say, so it starts upbeat and then kind of ends distorted, which makes sense with the title too.
Yeah, that definitely
I mean,
makes
what
sense.
you're saying is like generally like
The same thing.
correct too. I mean,
Yeah,
getting
I
the
mean
theme
that's why I
of it,
felt
yeah.
like exactly what you said, where right in the beginning it feels all amped up, but then like I said,
Yep.
it's a song, it's the
And
story of the robot that loses
just
the fight, and it kind of gets all
sure.
distorted, it loses its batteries, short circuits after the fight, and just
Yep.
kind of fades away. Yeah,
It's a kind of a creepy song in a good way. I mean, it has like that distortion noise is interesting. It catches you off guard when it turns from that upbeat noise to that way more slow and just like distorted noises at the end. I think it's experimental in that sense. It's sort of surprising, especially if you forget about how it starts and ends. So it's a cool track. I would say it's nothing you'd listen over and over, but it's sort of cool. It's sort of like a almost kind of like a night vision interlude type length, if I'm not wrong. But sort of something cool to listen to. That's very very different.
yeah. Let me check really quick. I'm pretty sure it clocks in at like 3 minutes 26 seconds, so
Okay,
it's
so that's
definitely
okay,
yeah.
but it still has, I'd say, a similar like interlude vibe because it feels very. This is one of the ones I'd say feels separate from the album because it's sort of an experimental song in a way. So I mean, they kind of all are, but this is probably the
Yeah,
one that stands out the most, I would say, and I like it. It's cool.
yeah. Don't hate it, but I
Yeah,
don't always listen to it. Yeah.
yeah, no super strong feelings for sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So track 13, getting close to the end of the album, we got Face to Face.
Hmm.
Um, to me, this song overall, I definitely like it, but it felt the most out of place with the vocal track. Other than like comparing the entire album with this,
Hmm.
if you get what I'm saying, it kind of just felt different. Um, a couple things I do have to say about it is with the lyrics and everything, I think it works well literally with the title of the song face to face because I actually felt like I was coming face to face with the song, album, and Daft Punk as a whole. Especially if you listen to the entire album all the way through. I guess maybe it's weird that it's coming right towards your end, or maybe it's perfect that you feel you kind of come face to face with Daft Punk's sound. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's my thing on face to face, and this is sort of going to melt into my review for too long, I guess, which is the next track.
Yeah.
Which is I feel Face to Face is a really strong track, and I think it should have been the ending track of the album. And I think, we'll
Mm,
talk about Too Long more, but I think Too Long belongs somewhere else up in the album, just in terms of the order of the
I
songs. I
agree.
think Face to
Yeah.
Face is actually a very good album ender. And I think it's a good song. It sounds a lot to me like something from Random Access Memories and sort of the collaborations with Pharrell that they had.
Yeah.
I think it has great music. I also really love the vocals on this one. I don't have a lot of detailed notes, but I know I really like this song. This is one that I actually will listen to often because, like we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of funky vibes in here. Um, just from the funk genre, which that's why I kind of wrote it's like a song from Random Access Memories,
Yeah.
because it has elements that I think would belong in that album. And yeah, I think it should have been the ending of the album because it has a very kind of bookend quality to it, and it's a good song.
Cool. That's all you got to say about this one?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So this leads to the final track, track 14, Too Long. I mean, what can we say about it? It's 10 minutes long.
It's too
Easily
long.
is the longest
Too
song
long.
on the album. I literally
It
just
is a little
wrote,
too long. I think
it's
10
too long,
minutes.
you know?
I
Yeah.
mean, I think 10 minutes is just in a couple places it can come off as just. Yeah, I mean, I think it can be sometimes too long.
Yeah. Sorry, I had some internet connection problems, but yeah.
I
I wrote
realized
it's
we're gonna edit this.
it's alright, it's alright. But for too long, I literally wrote it's too long, it feels long, but I feel not bad though. It is not bad. I can easily I know I've said this for so many other songs where it's like this is not their
Mhm.
other people's flavors for the people that listen, like type of song they would like. I like it though. It's not bad. I'm not gonna listen to this every single time I'm listening through or cherry picking my songs because
You're
it is
not
too
gonna listen to
long.
the whole 10 minutes over and over. Come
Yeah,
on, man. I agree with you. I think it's
but
okay.
yeah,
It's an okay track. I
I
like
I
the
think
latter half more. The first
yeah.
half's a little boring. What were you gonna say?
No, I think I was just gonna say that shoot, what was I gonna say? I was gonna go back to what you were talking about earlier with face to face. I actually really agree with you. I think that would have been good to end the album on, and I feel with Too Long, Daft Punk
Exactly.
almost. It felt more not. I don't know if it was like a joke or what, or maybe just being
Yeah.
instrumental. Like, 'cause I don't know where else I would put Too Long. That's what I'm kind of interested in what you would say. Because you said it was maybe go somewhere else, and I actually do
Yeah.
think Face to Face would have been a great ending song. But if you had to include Too Long in, I almost don't know where
Here's where you
thematically
include
or
it.
like story wise in the album where else would it go?
Well, I'll tell you. You kick out Veritas Quo, and then
No,
you
no, no.
put Too Long where Veritas Quo is.
What
No,
if you
but
had
for
to
real,
keep
I would say put
everything?
somewhere in the second half, just not the ending. It's hard, sort of. It just kind of leaves me cold. It's too long and a little too
Yeah.
repetitive. I think the second half is fine, but it sort of just goes on and on and on, which I don't
I mean,
really
I
like.
feel
10 minutes
like
is very long, so I mean,
yeah. I think that's literally the point, and I think
yeah,
it was absolutely. I mean, obviously it was intentional, but I think it was absolutely intentional
yeah,
that they put at the end so someone could, if they're doing a full album listen to every single track, and then when they get to Too Long, listen to maybe a minute or two, and then just kind of cut it off, instead of having to like fool around with like their MP3 player or whatever listening device they're listening to,
yeah,
instead of having to like
yeah,
skip through to a different track right after, they can just be like,
right.
okay, I know this is the last song. It's too long.
Yeah,
I'm gonna end my
it's
listening
a little
session there.
conclusive, I guess, to the album, but I like Face to Face a lot, so I put
No,
that at the end. It would have been a stronger ending. That's what I would say.
no, I actually kind of agree with you.
Yeah,
The only place I could maybe see putting too long is maybe around Night Vision. Like I don't know if it would
yeah,
work right
maybe.
before and then you kind of have the lullaby, or maybe after the Night Vision, then you put too long. But then you just have a bunch of long songs back to back with. Then you would have too long and then superheroes, and those are both pretty long. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Too Long is sort of on my almost dislike list. It's not a great song. I think it's okay. I'll listen to it once, and then it's not very memorable.
That's fair. All right. I mean, do you have anything else before we go to the whole album review? Do you have anything else for any of the other
Mhm.
tracks that you haven't like said yet? Like
I
track
think that's pretty
specific.
much it. I was going to mention just Short Circuit again because I think it's worth mentioning because it's sort of a weird track. It's one that people
Yeah.
forget about a lot. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of tracks I've kind of said are sort of underrated,
Yeah.
but I think this one, I wouldn't really say it's underrated, but it's worth like a second look. Just
Yeah.
listen to it again. It's different.
Was I, if I recall correctly, was Short Circuit the track that you said you didn't remember at first glance? Because I know actually
Yeah,
that Short Circuit's
it was.
definitely the one I forget about the most for
Yeah, I
me.
forgot about it a lot. And when it started, I was like, this is a really cheesy song. And then it, went where it goes. Um, and it's sort of surprising that the journey you take with this song, especially if you don't remember it, which I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
if you're a fan of Discovery, chances are you maybe have forgotten about this track. So take another
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah. Okay. So now the review of the album as a whole for Discovery. I don't know if you rated it out of 10 or rated it at all, but I definitely did. To me, this was maybe probably going to be the only easiest rating I come across, and I don't think I will give these out often. I'm not sure if you agree with me at all, but I just love Discovery so much. It was an easy 10 out of 10 for me. I don't know. To me,
Yeah.
I absolutely love Daft Punk and everything, and I felt like, even though this is the second album, I felt like they really invented Daft Punk and the sounds here, and I think it was extremely transformative overall. Just like changing
Yeah.
everything in the electronic music scene with Discovery. So easy 10 out of 10. What about you?
I think well, transformative is definitely the word for this one because again, it's first of all, Daft Punk, of course, is transformative in the fact that what they've done for EDM in general has just been revolutionary in many ways. Sort of the risks they took, the ways they played with instrumentation, with repetition, the different genres they, experimented with. I think Discovery, I think the reason, I think for me at least, Discovery works so well is because even though, we were talking a lot about, songs fitting in with each other, but each song has something unique. Even when I talk about Veritas Quo being so-called my least favorite, which it is,
Yeah.
I think even that song has some integrity to it in the fact that it feels different from a lot of the other tracks and music in general. I think Discovery as an album differentiates itself constantly. It holds up fairly well, I would say, considering the fact that EDM has grown as a genre.
Oh
I think
yeah.
definitely feel the inventiveness of the music. For sure, transformative. I don't know if I would give it I don't know if I know my 10 out of 10 rating for it, but or my out of 10 rating for it. I would say, I'm not one to really give 10 out of 10s, but it's maybe somewhere like an 8 or a 9. I
Whoa.
would say
Okay.
for sure it's
That's fair.
I don't want to say 8. 8 sounds too low. I'd go 9 if I, had to pick a
Okay.
number and put it on
Yeah.
it. Because for me, it's definitely one of my personal all-time favorite albums. For sure, like if I were to tell you about my musical tastes in general, I would point you to Discovery and say, hey, this is pretty much indicative of the different genres that I like. And I think the reason that we both like it, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, is that there's some consistency again to the album, but every song feels different in some way or
Yeah.
another. So I think that speaks to both of our musical tastes,
Oh yeah.
as different as they may be. We like different kinds of music, but we literally also like different kinds of music. So it's
Yeah.
sort of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, going back to what you said with every single track, I think if I listen to it enough and on repeat the single tracks just by themselves, I think I'd get a story out of each song. I'm not sure if maybe they're saying that's cheesy or not, but I think Discovery just did that really well where obviously it is like a concept album. I think you should absolutely, if you never have before, listen to the whole album front to back. Even too
Definitely.
long, you know.
Yes. Just
Definitely
listen
Word
to
is
it.
quote, don't let Rishabh steer you away, you know.
Let's skip that. But don't act skip it. I mean, you have to listen to the entire album once for sure.
Yeah, it's just an album of stories making up a bigger story, you know. Smaller stories being part of a bigger whole, you know.
Sure. I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, to get away from the story talk, I guess I'd be. You mentioned it quickly before. I'd interested to think what you think about the different halves. Now, the way I kind of have up this album is definitely at like Night Vision, where I feel like
Same.
everything previous is the first half, and even though there's definitely more, there's more tracks and it's longer on the second half. I'd be interested in possibly which one you prefer. You know?
For me, it's very easy. It's the first half. The second half for me is definitely the weaker half. There's a couple exceptions. It's not that I don't like the second half. I really do like it. Again, it's one of my personal all-time favorite albums. But at the same time, if I were really distinctly looking at the two halves, I think the first half has the classic songs, first of all,
Yeah, yeah,
has a lot of the musical sort of elements that I personally really like, whether it be Aerodynamic or Digital Love or One More Time, of course. Um, that's the strong half for me. That's the half of the album I find myself listening to over and over again. I think that's the best way to kind of describe it.
Yeah, and actually going back on what you said with the classic, though, I will say this: the first half actually isn't my favorite. Even though
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple of songs, even though my favorite songs are in the second half and my least favorite, to me, I just think that's the most underrated part is the second half, and I kind of just like
Yeah.
all the songs on that. But easily for mainstream people, listeners, anyone, I could easily just see them saying the first half, just because you have all the hits. You got One More Time, Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, Aerodynamic, like
Yep.
easily I can see why people would, if they only had to listen to one half, they'd listen to that half. But I just have it's just a place close to my heart with the second half, like all the different songs, like I
Yeah.
just kind of
I
like
think
them all.
second half. Yeah, second half is almost like Daft Punk fans only club in a
Yeah,
way,
that's
where
fair.
they're playing around with the music a little bit. They're taking some risks. They're doing some Veritas Quo stuff, which is
To me, that's
questionable.
good. To me, that's
Well,
good.
it's questionable. But yeah, it has interesting tracks. But for me, I will always come back to the first half personally. I mean, I think obviously for a layperson, of course, first half, but even as a Daft Punk fan today, when I think Daft Punk, there's no way I can think Daft Punk and not think of One More Time for sure, at least. And to a large extent, even Digital Love or even Aerodynamic. Those are the first three songs I think really are indicative of what Daft Punk is to
Yeah.
me.
Yes. Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay. And just to kind of wrap up the whole album review again, seriously, if you have not listened to Discovery, if you've only heard a couple tracks, either please listen to the entire album all the way through, or honestly, even listen to Interstellar 5555. You know,
Yeah, watch that
that
film. It's a well-made movie.
it's well made. I'd only seen it once, but I know I definitely liked it. It had come out. I even wrote down when it came out. It came out November 10th, 2003. So it actually came out 2 years after Discovery came out. But I think either way, you might even get more if that's your first listen through, is by listening and watching to Interstellar. You know, just like overall,
Yeah,
it's a top three album for me. I know it's high up there for you, and that kind of concludes
it's high up
my
there.
my half for the album kind of review.
Yeah, I mean it's high up there for me too. I don't think I have a ranking really for it. But yeah, personal favorite. I always recommend it. It's really good. Obviously, we mentioned, of course, the two halves. I'd say, again, if you're really looking to really introduce yourself to Daft Punk, listen to the first three tracks, and I think you'll get a sense of whether or not you'll like their overall vibe. And I think ultimately Daft Punk is pretty much where you go and begin sort of an EDM journey in a way. And
Yeah,
you basically become very attuned to sort of other similar kinds of music, and it introduces you to a lot of different genres. This is definitely something. Also, the fact that you can listen to this at any age, really. Like this is something that very young people can enjoy too. So if you're looking to like really gain a lot of insight into a lot of different genres, um, even as a young person or at any age, really, this is the one to go to for sure.
yeah. Okay, and that kind of segues me into the next ish part of this podcast, where today we don't have much. To me, it's basically just kind of a overall recap as we go on with more episodes and whatnot. I'm not sure of a schedule or anything, but so this podcast basically today and this episode is going to be the only one where we both completely agreed and we both chose the same album. We chose Discovery, obviously. So
Yep.
starting next episode, I'm not sure yet, but one of us will pick the album, forcing the other person to listen to it as well. And whether we like it or not, doesn't matter if it's new or old. And then we'll do the same exact thing. We will go through track by track, overall album review. Hopefully, Rishabh isn't too harsh with his album picks. That's all I can say. As time
All
goes
I'll
on,
say
yeah.
I listened to your reviews very intently on this album, and I have taken note of the tracks I did not like, and I will be picking albums with tracks of that sort.
Uh-oh. Yeah, all I know is I'm picking an exact album that just sounds like Veritas Quo. So, be
Oh
warned. Be
gosh.
warned. But so to be more like to talk about the rest of this part. So it kind of this part kind of is a quick kind of wrap up. If there's any really topical music news, any kind of housekeeping we need to do, or future news or notes or anything, this it kind of happened like right at the end of this podcast of Aux Fiends. I feel like we talked about it enough. Why it's even called Aux Fiends. This episode probably is going to be the longest. I'm assuming unless we have any really long albums or anything, just because we kind of had to explain a
Yeah.
little bit of who we are, like what we listen to, and kind of like what exactly will happen in each of these
Yeah.
episodes as we go on. Yeah. Do you think I'm missing anything
This
else?
this I was going to mention this episode is like the Aux Friends version
Yeah.
of Aux Fiends. This is the part where we agree perfectly because it's
Yeah.
again one of the few albums I think that we'll end up agreeing on. But Mateo, I'm curious to find out if on this podcast journey we actually agree more than we disagree on certain musical tastes. We never know.
Yeah. I'd be surprised. I'd be extremely surprised. But you're
I'd be
right. We never
surprised
know.
too.
I think this podcast is going to be an interesting, not hypothesis, I don't
Journey.
know, journey. Yeah, just
Yeah.
figure out because if any listeners thought we were arguing a lot over just like Veritas Quo or any other track on this, so be ready because this is one we both agree almost 100% on. Well, we love this, and so
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
yeah, I
All
think
right.
that kind of wraps up this episode of Aux Fiend. Thank you guys for listening. Yeah.
Thank you.
See you later, alligator.